one day he might not hit the ground. We'll see. I wonder a lot. In my life, in my day, in my hours, I find myself wondering. There's times where I wonder about crazy things. Like what would it be like? I wonder if I won the lottery, what would I do with $1 billion? I do this, I wonder. And so this morning, in light of our series Guardrails, I want to just think through this and I want you to just process with me for a second on my wondering. I wonder what I would have in this life, what I would have right now, if I didn't know what everybody else had. Just think about it for a second. I wonder what I would have if I didn't know what everybody else had. I wonder what I would want if I didn't know what everybody else had. Just process for a moment. I wonder what you would want if you didn't know what everybody else around you had. I wonder sometimes how much money I would have saved if I wasn't aware of all the things that there were to spend it on. Now, you guys, you should know me by now, but there's this thing that I do often. And often probably is an understatement. It's a part of my weekly routine. I jump on this site called Savannah Liquidation. And at this site, this company, this organization here in Savannah, they sell returned items. So when you return something to Home Depot or Lowe's, or you return something to Amazon, they don't always restock it. Sometimes it's cheaper for them to sell it off in mass quantities. Well, this company buys it, resells it. If you think about the math of all the taxes we're paying, it won't go there. But nonetheless, this company sells this stuff, and I jump on and I bid on some of these items often, okay? I want to show you a little bit about Savannah Liquidation. So this is their website, and I will just watch every week and I don't have a truck, but I can use a bed. I don't need a planer, but that's a cool planer. They just show all these things. You can see them they're all for bid. Some of them are $10. There's a refrigerator, a bathroom hose, a Jeep. You got a Jeep, there's some doors, a painter. I've always wanted one of those door locks you can put in a key code, Anything else you guys see? Another sprayer, some sort of power thing. Anybody got dogs or small children? There's a cage for, sorry, I didn't say that out loud. I think I saw a vanity for sale. That was page 1 of 3 pages of Savannah Liquidation. And they are every day adding things to their site that you can jump on and bid. And there's a 2-day bid. And sometimes things will be $5, $10. Sometimes things are $100, $200. It's usually always half. Savannah Liquidation, you're welcome. I'm giving away my secret. Some people are don't talk about this. This is your secret. I love this place. But it is true. But by sitting there and watching, on the daily, scrolling through, just seeing what's for sale, it makes me wonder, how much money I would have saved if I wasn't aware of all the things that there were to spend my money on. I don't need any of that. But now I find myself wanting it. A paint sprayer, that kind of cool. One day I might come here and paint the church or something, I don't know. But I do, those doorknobs, I would love to have the electric, push in my code. And then I'm but Chris, you don't ever go through the front door. You go through the garage door all the time. I wonder how much money we collectively would have saved in our life if we didn't know all the things that there were to spend our money on. I wonder how much more money I would have. I wonder how much more money I would have given away to people who genuinely needed it if I wasn't so consumed with all the things that I realize I don't have. So there's a problem this morning that I'm facing. And I think that we as a church, as a people, are collectively facing it too. And the problem is this. We know too much about what others have and what we don't have. We have a problem. We know too much. We know too much about what you or others have and what I or you don't have. And this knowledge of what you have or what others have, this knowledge of what they have and what you don't have is dangerous. And it creates in us this deep level of discontent. And this knowledge of what others have and we don't have, it lures us, towards the brink of, towards the cliff of financial bondage and ruin. Because this knowledge of what others have and what we don't have, this discontentedness, it creates an appetite that's never fully satisfied to want more, to need more. So this whole series is called Guardrails. And if you're new with us, Guardrails is simply this. It's a system designed to keep vehicles from straying into dangerous or off-limit areas. We've all seen guardrails. Guardrails are in place to direct and protect us, okay? And they're placed in like a safety zone. They're not placed in an area of danger. They're actually placed in a place that's really safe to keep us from going into places that we don't want to be, or to keep other things from coming into our world or into our lane that we don't want them to come. And so they're placed in safe zones to keep us out of dangerous zones. They guide, or they direct, and they protect us, and they minimize the damage in our cars. But truth be told, what we've realized is that our cars aren't the only thing in this world that need guardrails. Our life needs guardrails. And when we establish guardrails in our life, what we're really doing is we're creating a standard of behavior that becomes like a matter of our conscience, that something lights up in us when we're getting too close to something we should not be doing. Like when we establish a guardrail, it's something saying, hey, you don't need to go there. You don't need to do this. It lights up our conscience. Like that's maybe the worldly way of saying it. The spiritual way of saying it is the Holy Spirit says, hey, you know you shouldn't do this. That's wise for you. And we've taught that wisdom is based on our past experiences, our present circumstances, and our future hopes and dreams. What is wise for us? Like based on where you've been, where you are, and where you want to go, is this a wise choice? That's what wisdom is. And so we put guardrails in our life to keep us from going places we shouldn't go. And today we're talking about financial guardrails. And if you want to leave, you may leave now. This is not a topic that we discuss often. In fact, it's very, very rare that we discuss this topic. And so if you're here this morning, and it's your first time, like just hang with me. I'm going to try to make you laugh a little bit. I might cry occasionally. You know, it's the dust in the air. Just embrace the journey. Y'all laughed at that. That was awesome. Just embrace the next 25 minutes. That's all I ask, okay? But you're going to notice some things about this church. We don't pass a plate. I don't, submit a bucket. There's no love offerings. There's no, I do not call attention to this topic often or usually ever on Sunday mornings because I know what the world thinks of the church. And the truth is, the church is kind of labeled. The church is against sex and it's for my money. Okay, like that's really what the church is kind of talked about. The church is against, all these things and it just wants all of your money. Okay, like that's how the church is seen. And the truth is, here that's not the case. Maybe in some places, yes, but it's not the truth here. Today is not a topic about your money, and it's not about us needing it. It's really more of a biblical context of Jesus speaking to financial guardrails. Because when we think financial guardrails, or when we think finances at all, we think, I don't want to bankrupt my life, and I don't want to fall into financial debt. Like that's the two extremes. I don't want to go to the extreme and go bankrupt, and I don't want to live my whole life in financial debt. And those are definitely two major sources of financial guardrails we'll speak of today. But the truth that most of us can embrace is that many of us in here aren't under this extreme amount of financial debt. In fact, many of us have money in our checking account right now, and we might have a little bit of a savings. Many of us aren't we're not in ruin. We're not falling apart, And so the question would be, well, why do we need financial guardrails? Well, the truth is that you can have money in your account. You can have savings, a 401k. You can have those things and still be in potential of financial ruin. You can still be in potential of falling off the cliff financially, even though you do have access to funds. And so this morning, we're going to look at a story that Jesus teaches. And the reason we're going to look at his words is so that you don't hear mine. We're going to look at what he says about a life that he wants a follower of Jesus to live. And this life that he wants to live is very important that we understand what he's teaching. It's not because he needs something from us. It's because he wants something for us. And I'm going to do my best to bring this topic of money to the conversation of many other things, that Jesus is not trying to get something from us. He wants to allow us to experience something from him. And so he's going to teach a very short passage. I'm going to try not to add too many words to his teaching. We're going to let him do a lot of speaking here. We're going to read what he says and just unpack it and see what he teaches about financial guardrails. So this morning in Matthew chapter 6, Jesus is kind of finishing up teaching on a whole bunch of topics. We call this the Sermon on the Mount. He's really been laying out this way of living. Like, what does it look like to live in the kingdom that he's establishing? What does it look like to be a Christ follower after a long time of religion and religiosity? Like, this is what it looks like to live following Jesus, what he's teaching on. And so he says these words in Matthew 6, starting in verse 24, and he just says these random statements. And he says, no one can serve two masters. So his audience is listening to him, and they're like, what? Like, where'd that come from? I'd come here and be like, you can't hit two holes in one. What? Like, it would just be a random, he'd throw out this comment, this statement, and it's literally a hook. As Jesus would speak, he would say things that would just captivate their attention. What do you mean you can't serve two masters? I don't even have one master. What do you mean two masters? And so he would lure them in with these statements. No one can serve two masters. For you will hate one and love the other. You'll be devoted to one and despise the other. To this statement, the people listening are like, dude, are you talking to us? Like, we don't have masters. And the assumption with the word master is immediately boss. Like, I don't have two bosses. Like, what are you talking about? Who are you talking to? Like, Jesus has literally tossed out these statements that's hooked them, and they're kind of leaning in. They're intrigued. Like, what are you talking about? Who are you talking to? And then he says this word. He says, no one can serve two masters, for you will hate one and love the other. You will be devoted to one, you'll despise the other. You cannot serve God and be enslaved to money. You cannot serve God and be enslaved to money. Now, that word enslaved is where this conversation takes a turn. When we think, for the Christian, for the person here who follows Jesus, we think the church wants money. No, listen. This is not about your money and giving it to the church. This is about a life that Jesus is inviting you to. When we see the word enslaved, we need to understand what it's saying. And in Greek, it can be translated this way. One who is in charge by virtue of possession or ownership. When he uses the word enslaved, he's speaking of who is in possession, who is in ownership of the life, of the heart that we're speaking of. You cannot serve two masters. You either love one and hate the other. You'll be devoted to one and despise the other. The question that he's posing is, who is in charge? Who owns you? Okay? Money or God? Who is it? And for the follower of Jesus, the primary issue of money always is mastery. Do we have money, or does money have us? Who is in charge of your life? The reason Jesus followers need guardrails, the reason I need guardrails financially, is that money and what it promises is the chief competitor in this world for my heart. The reason we need financial guardrails is because money and what it offers is the chief competitor for my heart. Again, God doesn't want something from us. He wants something for us. And without having guardrails, specifically financial guardrails in our life, we can have money, we can have safety nets. But the problem is we can also veer off a cliff into this world of consumption, or this world of hoarding that controls our life. An unbridled or a unrestricted desire for more, which is consumption, or a unrestricted desire for hoarding or saving. These two things, if they aren't controlled or don't have guardrails on them, it will completely consume our life. It'll take over. Because naturally, we are people who consume. If we fall into this rhythm of, I always need more, which is what the world is constantly speaking to us. There's never enough. We become people that are just desiring more and more and more. We're consumed by it. I literally can spend about 5 minutes scrolling through Survey Liquidation and be like, oh, I do need that. I didn't have that before. I could actually use one of those. And that's cheap. But what's happening is I'm desiring. I'm being consumed with what I don't have, what I now need. And there's truth in this. Listen, I can have the desire for consumption for more or the desire for hoarding, which is, hey, I want to have more and I want to hold on to it because if I hold on to it, it'll protect me. And then the world that you live in goes from gaining more and then maintaining what I've got. And you're consumed by it. And both of these desires, the desires to consume or the desire to hoard, at the heart or the root of these two desires is actual greed. And so when Jesus is teaching, you can't have two masters, what he's actually speaking to is a heart issue. That the world is going to teach you to be greedy. That you need more, and if you've got it, hold on to it and protect your life. It's going to teach you to keep for yourself. In fact, the definition of greed is simply this: the assumption that it's all for my consumption. Like that's what greed is. Greed is an assumption that's all for my consumption. You guys say that with me. Greed is this. It's the assumption it's all for my consumption. Don't forget that. Just say it all day long. It's the assumption it's for my consumption. It's this lifestyle that it's for me. It's mine. I need this. I want this. I've got this. Keep this. Don't lose this. It's so easy for the world that we live in to fall into this way of life. And it's so interesting that we, and I say let me use I quickly forget in this world that I live in how fast, how easy I can slip into the desire for consuming or even the desire of hoarding. That I can let greed take charge. And here's the thing. When it takes charge, I've picked the wrong master. You can't serve two masters. You can't serve God and money. But so quickly, my heart can become consumed with how do I get what I want or how do I keep what I have? And I've chosen the wrong master. You know you've chosen the wrong master because you can't serve both, God or money. You know you've chosen the wrong one when your life looks a little bit like this, okay? Like when you make choices based on this, let's just look at your life. When you choose based upon your resources to live first, save second, and give last. Let me break that down for you. You know that you've chosen the wrong master. You know that you're actually serving money or that money has control over you. When your life looks like this, I get paid and I live on what I've got. And if I'm one of the few that make more than what I need to live, I save some. And if after saving some there's excess, I give. Like, this is how you know that you're controlled by money. If you live, save, give. Now all three of those things are great. Like they're needed. You cannot have like those three things and live in the world we have. The problem is you've got them in the wrong order. But most of us choose to live this way. We live how we want to live. We save if we can, or maybe some, and then we give what's left. This way of life is you being mastered by money. Because you choosing to live first is all about you. How do I want to live? What do I want to do? How do I want to spend my money? Living is consumption. What do I need to spend to get what I want? Saving is hoarding. Okay, I'm not saying if you save, you're hoarding, but it is. Saving is for my protection. It's for my future. It's for my retirement. It's for in case of emergency. Live is for my consumption. Save is for my consumption just later. And then give is now the only thing that I have that's, if left over, is for somebody else. This is the way of money mastering your life. Live, save, give. But Jesus wants to switch this up. And so I've been thinking through like an idea of like how do I like share an idea or a story with you that's like not church related. And so I'm going to use just for a moment, especially with the experience of baptism this morning, I'm going to use my children for a moment because Jamie and I want to teach our kids a different way of living than we naturally chose. Because I naturally chose live, save, give. Spend every resource I have on what we need to have and max out my resources to get what I want to get. And if there was a little left over, we would save. And then if saving worked and I had extra, we would give it away. Like that's how I just naturally chose my life. It was so easy to fall into that because I had wants and desires and a list of things I needed, you know? But I didn't want that for my kids. Like I wanted to teach them a different way where they weren't consumed by the desire for more. So Jamie and we give our kids these things called green light cards. And I don't have a sponsorship for this, so I'm sure I'm telling you about it. But it's a green light card, it's a debit card system where we get to monitor and manage their funds, okay? And we give our kids an allowance, not because of they did something, just because, hey, out of the generosity of our heart, we want to teach them how to use money, and they can't have jobs yet. It's coming, I promise. But we want to teach them how to use money, and it's also good for us to be generous to them on other occasions than just their birthdays and Christmas. So they get a minimal amount of money every single month. And I'm talking minimal, okay? And I divide it amongst 4 kids. And so when they get their allowance on the 16th of every month, it's immediately divided into 3 categories. First, they take 10% of that gift and put it in a giving category. Then they take 20% of that next, and they put it in savings. And then the rest goes into spend. So my kids have a give, a save, and a spend account. Now, giving and saving are locked. They can't do anything with them except give. They can choose what they want to give to. And this allows us to give to nonprofits, which LifeBridge is one of. And so my kids every month can give, once they reach a certain amount, they can give to LifeBridge for the building campaign. So my kids' giving account is given towards our expansion, okay? That's what they chose. And so every 3 months they reach their goal, and that give account kind of fluctuates. It'll go up, and then they'll give it away. And then it'll go up and give it away. Their savings account is just kind of tick, tick, it's just growing, okay? Because they can't touch it. It's locked, okay? And their spending account is all over the map, you know? They buy a Powerade at the grocery store. They buy something at their school. They want to popcorn at the concession stand. It's really, it's their way of managing their spend. But the lifestyle change for them is that they're learning that first I set aside money to give away. Second, I set aside money to save. And then I have what's left to live on. This is a change of way of living because I don't want them to be consumed by spending. I need and I've got, and this is mine, I'm earning. No, I don't want them to be consumed with this is my money and what I want, and what I need, and how I have it and how I spend it is all mine. We're teaching them to do this way of life so that they're not consumed, but they're not mastered by money. Because Jesus, he teaches us a different way. He does. He teaches us to give first, to save, and then live off the rest. Let me show you some places he speaks of this. In Matthew 6, starting in verse 31, he says this. So don't worry about these things. And these things he's going to say. What we will eat or what we will drink or what we will wear. Now the people he's speaking to, he's telling them, don't worry about what you're going to eat next, or what you're going to drink next, or what you're going to wear. Like don't worry. And that's easy for us in the day that we live because we don't worry about what we're going to eat because we have a refrigerator. I can buy ham and it's going to last me a week. I can buy bread and because of process, it's going to not go crazy bad early, fast. But in their time, they couldn't hold on to things. I mean, water, if it's set for too long, would kill you. Meat, be careful, fresh now, they didn't have the ability to hold on to. And so their resources were really day to day. But God says to them, hey, don't worry about those things. Don't worry about all of the things that cause you to become consumers. Well, we need to get more. We need to have excess because in case of emergency, if something happens, we've got plenty. Fear causes us to want to hoard. Well, what if the crisis comes? What if the world ends? What if this doesn't happen the way I've planned? So we move into these 2 desires really quickly in the world we live in, which is get more to create comfort and hold on to more so that I can have future comfort. It's like what I want now and what I want later. That's what the world moves us to. And Jesus says, don't worry about those things that you want now and what you're holding on to for later. He says, don't worry about those things. What shall we eat? What shall we drink? What we should wear? He says, these things dominate the thoughts of unbelievers. Those who don't know Jesus are consumed by a need for more. Because they're trying to satisfy something. They want to be known for or seen as or feel like they've accomplished. That's and if you're not a follower of Jesus today, like please don't like be offended. Jesus' words are, if you don't follow him, you're the God of your life. You're in charge, and you do what you do to make you feel good. That's what he's speaking. That's what unbelievers do. But those who follow Jesus, we're not consumed by our own desire for more or our desire to have for later. We trust in a God who loves us and cares for us and has a future for us. We don't have to worry about these things. He's not finished. He says, these things dominate the thoughts of unbelievers, but your heavenly Father already knows all your needs. He knows everything that you could ever need. He's teaching us that his kingdom is different. He wants us to change our way of thinking. So what does he say? Don't worry about what you need now and what you're going to want later. He says this, seek the kingdom of God above all else. Verse 33. Seek the kingdom of God above all else. He wants us to restructure our way of living. Not that we live, save, give, but that we live in a kingdom that gives first, saves second, and then lives on what's left. He says it this way in Mark 10, starting in verse 42. He says, so Jesus calls them together and said, you know that the rulers in this world, they lord it over their people. And officials, they flaunt their authority over those under them. But among you, it will be different, Jesus followers. He's like, in my kingdom, it will be different. Whoever wants to be a leader among you, they must be a servant. And whoever wants to be first among you must be a slave to everyone else. He shifts the order of how the world exists and works. If you want to be first, you must be last. You must be a servant. You must care for others. Verse 45, for even the Son of Man came into the world, or he came to be served. Let me read that again. I've got my memory and then this verse. For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve others and give his life as a ransom for many. He flips the script from a life that exists me first, others second, to others first, me last. And I say all that to say, if you are a Christ follower, what does your life look like? Do you have financial guardrails? Do you live a life where me is last? Where you give first, you save, and that's second, and then you live third. Does this function in your life? Let's be really specific. Do you, when your income comes in, do you first set aside a percentage to give away? When I mean give away, I mean give away. I mean, I would be honest with you, like I would say give here to a place where when we collectively give together, we can go and make a massive difference in this community. Where we can empty this place out tomorrow and make it a blood drive, where we can bring in kids and change their lives and see them baptized, where we can go out into our community in May, which is coming up real soon, and city serve and love people who do not go to our church, some may, but don't, and we can love them with no strings attached. We can serve them, care for them, fix their problems, fix their homes or their structures or we can give resources to them, no strings attached. Like I would say, do you first give to something around you, a nonprofit, an organization you care about, a local church? Do you give a percentage first? Jamie and I set aside a percentage. 10% is kind of the standard. Hey, 10% is what we give. First, it comes off the top. It's moved immediately. You save second. You have a percentage where you set aside to save. And then you live on what's left. This is a person who is in control of their money. This is a person who's mastered their money. You're not being controlled by it, by living on everything, saving little, and having nothing to give away. No, you are giving first because you're a follower of Jesus. You are sacrificing and giving to the needs around you first, saving, setting aside a portion second, and then learning to live on what's left so that you're not consumed by the desire of more. You're not consumed by the desire to hold on to and keep what you have. Is this what your life looks like? If not, my challenge to you today is to try. And again, if you're only for the followers of Jesus, would you try for 3 months to change your life, practically speaking? Would you try on your next paycheck to reverse your way of thinking? And if you're already doing this, keep doing it. If you're not, for 3 months, would you try? Choose to take a percentage and give first. If you're looking for a place to give, you can give here. But you don't have to give here. Give first. Give first. Take a percentage and give it away. Second, save. Put it aside. And then take care of the rest. Live on what you have left. Will it cause some changes? Yeah. Will it cause you to reprioritize? Yes. It's the point. It's the focus. Will it cause you to say no to some things? Yeah, it will. But it makes you choose to live the life that Jesus established for us. And this works it works in other ways, not just money. Like he doesn't need our money. God doesn't want you to give him more money. He doesn't need it. He doesn't want it. He's establishing rhythms and ways of us to live so that we are dependent upon him, that we desire and need him. And money can become God of our life where we don't need him anymore, or don't want him anymore. We just want more money. And the same sense is discipleship. Like discipleship was established not because he wanted his gospel to be made known throughout the whole world. I mean, yes, that's going to happen, but he established discipleship because when we are discipling others, when we're telling others about the goodness of God, it's demanding of us an accountability to him. God, if I'm going to tell others about you, then I need to be dependent on you. If I'm going to share a story about what you're doing, then I'm going to be looking to experience and walk with you and follow you. You do not share what you do not know. Discipleship in itself was a way to keep you accountable. Like God established these things in our life. Prayer, not so you could change God's mind, so that you could align with him. Like prayer is established for us to approach God in alignment with him. Of what do you want? What's your will? Discipleship is a way to hold us accountable to following him, so that where we're going, we can take others. Generosity is established so that we keep God as our center focus. That everything I need, God, you're going to provide. I'm not going to worry about what's going to happen. I'm not going to worry about tomorrow because tomorrow's enough worries for itself. I'm going to trust and depend on you. When we're generous first, it forces us to depend on him. God, you're going to give me what I need. You're going to provide what I have to have. Will you try for 3 months? 3 months. That puts us into summertime. So it's March. April, May, June. Would you try for 3 months to shift your way of thinking? When your paycheck comes in, whenever it comes in, I'm going to take a percentage. You pick. I'm going to give first. And after I give, I'm going to save. And I'm going to learn to live on what's left. Try for 3 months. And let's see what God teaches you, what he shows you. This is how we establish financial guardrails. This is how we keep from money mastering us. And this is how we teach ourselves and others how we are in control of our money. Let me pray for us. God, thanks for the day. Man, thanks for your teaching. It's very simple teaching, God, on money. And it's not about how much you need or want or the church wants on money. It's about us choosing to live in a kingdom that you created that prioritizes serving others first. That we first give away like you did, Jesus. That we prioritize caring for others before ourselves. And in this priority, in this system, in this structure of giving and then saving and then spending or living, God, it teaches us to be dependent upon you and trust you for our resources. trust you for wisdom and how to spend money and where it needs to go. And teaches us to live a life not based on consumption or hoarding, but on full dependence of you. God, help us make the choice to establish some guardrails, to place a priority in our life, to give first, save second, and then live on the left. Live on what's left. Jesus, we love you. Thank you for this teaching. You're our pray. Amen. Thanks for being here today. Love you guys. You're dismissed.